Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta's Girlfriend Brunch. I am Shaunya Chavis Rucker, and I am going to be your moderator this afternoon. This special Girlfriend Brunch, and for me, it's a brunch without food because I can't moderate and eat at the same time, but it invites women to join us in a girlfriend's conversation, focusing on how women can lead the way professionally and personally, and figuring out whether or not we can all become what we have called this thing here pandemic proof. And we're talking about pandemic proof in our finances, politics, beauty, physical and mental and spiritual health. And I think that you all can all agree with us that we have learned so much during this period, but how can we be ensured that we are ready for what we hear could be round two when and if it ever should take place. So please get ready to engage with some top female industry experts on tips and resources that will help you to better secure your all-around health, wealth, and beauty. So before we get started, I just want to share a couple of housekeeping rules. Please feel free to use your chat box. I'm sure many of you have already gone through a million Zoom conferences by now. And so we want, that chat box that's at the bottom. Tell us your name, what city and state you're joining us for this virtual brunch. And while you are introducing yourselves to each other, I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to the CEO of Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, Tiffany Collie Bailey. Tiffany, it is a pleasure to see you, and thanks again for having me.
Shaunya, thank you for joining this afternoon and for leading us in our conversation about our Girlfriend's Brunch. Well, good afternoon, ladies. I am so excited to see you today. I am Tiffany Collie Bailey, the CEO of Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta. And while the world is beginning to open back up, we are excited that you chose to join us this afternoon for our girlfriends conversation. So can I talk to my girlfriends today? Let me tell you about the Girlfriends Brunch. I mean, the original Girlfriends Brunch. You see, the original Girlfriends Brunch was going to be held at the prestigious Villa Christina Hotel in Buckhead. Now, doesn't that just sound fancy? There were going to be 300 of the most amazing, dynamic, and talented women in the room, and we were going to be dressed to the nine, because you know how we do. But then the novel coronavirus hit. And over 89,000 people, and still counting, lost their lives. The world stood still. The U.S., the United States of America, closed. And for the first time in 44 years, with having served over 114,000 girls, Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, the Girls Inc. that teaches girls how to be strong through mental, emotional, and physical health. The Girls Inc. that provides academic support and leads our girls into STEM, reading literacy, teaches our girls about the power of the pocketbook through financial literacy. Yes, us, Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, that had one of our own babies who participated in Michelle Obama's Becoming documentary. We closed our doors. We closed our doors for on-site programming. We closed our doors to programs in the community for little girls that looked like you and looked like me. We took a pause. But during that pause, there were conversations going on. Conversations amongst Girls Inc. girlfriends, where we were consoling each other. We were encouraging and motivating each other. And then we remembered who we were. No, that's not true. I got that wrong. We remembered who we are. We are Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, and we inspire all girls and women to be strong, smart, and bold. So no, the Girls Inc. Brunch didn't happen at the prestigious Villa Christina Hotel, but it happened right where it was supposed to, with who it was supposed to happen with. It happened with over 240 dynamic, amazing, and talented girlfriends virtually in your homes. And so we are so happy that you could join us. We want to thank our sponsors because we couldn't have done this without them. They have truly made the difference for us. And so we want to say thank you to our Panasonic for making their support just amazing, to Van Man Couriers, and to Andrea Woods. Thank you for all that you have done to make this Girlfriends Brunch possible. Okay, Shaunya, I think we're ready. Let's talk to our girlfriends.
Let's talk to our girlfriends. Thank you so much, Tiffany, and kudos to Girls Inc. for saying, hey, we can't do it the way we thought we were going to do it, but we're going to find a way. You all know women, I say it all the time. When we can't find a way, we make one. So at the moment, everyone is muted, but as Tiffany stated, we'd like for you all to still continue in this conversation or be in this conversation using that chat box. However, if you would like to ask a question, please select the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Again, go down there and see that Q&A button, and that way I can announce you and we can get to some of our live Q&A questions, and you will be instructed on how to move forward. We will only be able to answer a few questions live. So in the meantime, we just advise that you use that Q&A button and of course continue chatting. We see you. I even see Ohio's in the house. We're here in Georgia, so it's so nice to see folks from all over the country. Take a look at that presentation outline. This is our agenda. We are going to talk about our themes. I'm going to introduce the panelists. We're going to have that girlfriends conversation. Again, we're going to have that live Q&A. And then Tiffany's going to come back and give us some closing comments. So we are excited. Again, now, this conversation this afternoon is focused around how we as women can lead our families, careers, and our communities in becoming, again, folks, we're going to keep saying it, pandemic proof. And these areas: finances, spiritual health, politics, mental health, beauty, and physical health. And here to guide us in this conversation are some of the top female industry experts. I am so excited to have you all introduce these ladies, because again, they are phenomenal. Dr. Jeanine Abrams, McLean, Politics, Fair Count Incorporated. Melissa George, she's going to be our finance expert, and she's with Melissa George and Associates. Tristan Marsh, a mental health professional. She's with Marsh Mental Management, LLC. Tracy Cole, got to keep us looking good, you guys. She's our beauty expert with Tracy Nicole Clothing. The Reverend Kima Cunningham, spiritual health, campus pastor, and director of Interfaith Campus Ministries at Central State University, coming to us all the way from Wilberforce, Ohio. And Dr. Angela Hudson, OBGYN, physical health founder and Women's Healthcare Center of Georgia. Ladies, it's good to see you all. Go ahead and give me a wave if you can hear us. It's a pleasure to have you. So let me just want to remind everybody about that the question box, and I want you to also, you can add some live questions later on. And ladies, let's just jump in. The bottom line is this has been something that, you know, we all talked about at the beginning of the year. I know you did it. I did it. We had this 2020 vision. We had this plan of what we were going to do in this 2020 year. We played off of that punt. I can't tell you how many times, but it appears that none of us could see this coming. Right? None of us had 2020 vision as it related to seeing this coming. So, you know, it's Sunday, so I want to start with the good Reverend Doctor. Reverend Kima, talk to us about what you're seeing in terms of people's spiritual, what they're going through spiritually during this time. What are you telling them, and what are you seeing?
One of the things that I think is really important, and really glad to be here with my sisters today, I think that we have to acknowledge a couple of things. We have to acknowledge that this is scary. We have to acknowledge that we are in the middle of something that we have never come up against before. But then I think we also have to acknowledge that this has given us some time to do things that we've never been able to fit within our schedule before. It has really given us some times, you know, we sit around talking about, you know what, I don't spend enough time with my kids. I don't spend enough time with my spouse. I don't get a chance to do something. Well, now we have the chance.
Yes, ma'am.
We absolutely have provision to sit and to have that discussion, to have those, you know, we talked about, there's some friends of mine, some some sister preacher friends of mine who our goal is we're going to sit at in the backyard at opposite ends of the yard. We're good with that. That'll be more than 6 feet, and just kind of have some time together.
Yes.
I think that, yeah. And I also think that it's a good time for reflection. It's a good time to sit and assess where you are. Many of us are working remotely, working from home. And so it really is an opportune time to reflect, to recharge, to kind of reinvigorate yourself and really begin to think about where are we going from here? Because one thing I do know is we're not going to do this the same way anymore.
No, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. And let me kind of move from you. And again, ladies, I want you all to just, if I can't see you, just raise your hand because I can see you. Just tell me you want to jump in. But, Tristan, when we talked about spiritually, but, sometimes, and particularly in the Black and brown communities, we don't really like to tell everybody that, okay, look, I'm kind of going through. I need some mental health help. Like on seriously. And this here moment, some folks are blessed enough to be able to have jobs where the checks kept coming through, but then others did not. I don't know about you all, but it breaks my heart when I am looking at these long, very long lines of people who are trying to get food, the basics, right? So Tristan, talk to us about some of what you're seeing and what you're trying to tell folks from your mental health perspective.
Well, first, we have to understand that this is, like we said, a global situation, and it's a global crisis, and crises are viewed in 3 different ways. So it's viewed as either a threat, a loss, or a challenge. And that's really based on that individual and their resilience. So if, like, for example, the girlfriend's brunch couldn't happen in person, so we made a way out of no way.
Yes,
so we
ma'am.
saw it as a challenge, so we had alternative ways. And that's using your ability to control what's in your realm and not seeing outside of that. But like you said, it's very difficult because a lot of people are processing it differently and not understanding how we can move forward because they don't have the right tools and stability to be able to do so. And first it starts with home. So is your home stable? And then you kind of build from there. But it's very imperative to do self-reflection before we try to figure out how do we handle Corona? How do we handle this?
Yeah, we got to be real with ourselves. And I know that you've got some tips coming up a little bit later. Dr. Angela, please let me get some help from a doctor, because let me tell you something. If I go to that kitchen one more time and find one more snack, and I know that, again, the Black and brown community, we have some health challenges that we need to be very cognizant of. And this is an opportunity, or let me just say, this is one of those situations where you can find yourself kind of going down somewhere where you don't want to go because you keep making trips to the kitchen. What are you telling folks from a health perspective?
Okay, so the problem is we're looking at this pandemic and seeing that it disproportionately affects African Americans, especially those that have diabetes, hypertension, obesity. So now, as the Reverend said, it's a time for reflection and looking at our lives. We certainly have dealt with years of problems with access to healthcare and poverty and difficulty with food choices. We've been in a position where advertisement and audio, advertisement that we see visually and audio, we're just surrounded by quick options to get food. But the problem is, as a gynecologist, it's all interconnected. The fact is the high sugar content affects insulin. And then as a result of that, we store it, we don't burn it. When we don't do that, it leads to obesity, which affects all the things that I take care of. So the irregular menstrual cycles that women have, the increased hair growth in unwanted areas, the hyperpigmentation or darkening of the skin in areas, the difficulty because of possible chronic inflammation that can happen with joints, the increased swelling with our hands and feet. All those things are all connected. Inflammation might affect endometriosis, the development of fibroids. And though when you talk about food, then we've got to sit there and go back and look at our diets balance in our carbs and our proteins and our fats. Are we able to start looking at water intake? For instance, if you weigh 100 pounds, you should be getting at least close to 2 liters of water in a day. 150 pounds, 3 liters, 200 pounds, 4 liters, and then it keeps going up 5 and 6 liters. For a lot of us, we don't drink that much water, and we should be. And so the way you start looking at it, some people think about some of these keto diets and intermittent fasting. The goal with those is actually to lower the insulin levels. And so now this is where we have to go as a society. You may be able to decrease your risk of hypertension or diabetes. There are genetic components associated with those things, but collectively, we got to start pushing the food from the table instead of finishing your plate. We've got to start looking at what options that we have to eat, increase the level of exercise so we can make some things happen, because all those things are the things that are causing the severity of this coronavirus to be so taxing to our community.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And I've got a couple of questions. I know you're an OBGYN, but we've got some, folks are on the line and they've got some real questions from a medical perspective about testing and how often we should be tested and can we get tested. But okay, so now we got a bunch of women here. So let's just be honest. Some of us, this may have been, with the exception of Dr. Kim, the Reverend Doctor, some of us probably for the first time in weeks, we put on some makeup today. we had to get kind of sort of cute today. We had to remember where the shadow goes and where the, right? Didn't we have to do that today? I knew that was me all day. I was like, I used to be able to do this with my eyes closed, but it's been weeks. But there's something to be said about trying to make yourself look good, even in the midst of a pandemic. So Tracy, I know folks may say, oh, they got a beauty expert on, because it's important. Because I don't know about you guys, because if I look a hot mess, I feel a hot mess. Tracy, talk to us about what you're telling folks.
Just getting ready for this gave me something to prepare for today. And I honestly believe how you look, how it affects how you feel. And that affects your energy and how you show up. So I knew what I was coming to today. So I wanted to get a little cute, and it made me feel good. And I truly believe that when you feel good, it brings you healthy, energy.
Yes.
It promotes health.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally as well.
Agreed. And we'll go into that a little bit more. So one of the main things, Dr. Jeanine, we're coming to you in a minute, but let me just be honest. I mentioned earlier that some of us have been fortunate enough to be able to maintain our paychecks during this pandemic. But when you really look at the statistics, you will see that really is not the case for millions of Americans all across our country. This has hit them hard, right? And Melissa George, you are our finance expert. And, for years, folks have said, oh, you need to make sure you can put a couple of months worth of rent or mortgage in the bank, which I still don't know for people who are working paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how they do that. But what are you now seeing and saying to your clients about what are we going to do on the other side of this and how can we get ready?
Well, it's such an important point, because for years, the standard has been that people should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses and savings. And if you're a small business owner or entrepreneur, maybe even more, maybe 6 to 12 months. And so I think what the pandemic has done is allowed everyone to take a look at what they should have been doing. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're really going to do what they need to do this time going forward. And there are obviously all kinds of tools that are available. For those of us that are very disciplined, that's usually not an issue. We already have the savings in place, or we have other funds that we can access, an empty credit card with a low interest rate, perhaps an equity line on our home. But for a lot of us who are living paycheck to paycheck and maybe a little less disciplined, there are some things that people will need to do going forward in order to make sure that they do have the savings in place. And just a couple of quick things that they can do. Obviously, they can take advantage of round-up accounts. For example, Bank of America has the keep the change where they will round up each of your purchases and move it.
Wait a minute, hold on, Melissa, wait. You about to get into some tips. You need to wait just a second because I need to tell everybody, I need to get them to get their notebooks together
Yes,
because
ma'am.
all of you guys are going to come with some tips. So hold on, because
Okay.
I know if nothing else, I need to be listening to you because I quickly learned that I am one of those that I'm not nearly as disciplined as I thought I was. So just hold on.
Okay, let me
I
know
want to
when
make
you're
sure
ready.
folks are ready.
Okay.
And on that chat line, they're wanting to make sure that they're ready too. And as we're talking about, we're in the house, or we should be 24/7 or near 24/7, you know, and you're trying to figure out what to do. Let me tell you what you can do if you haven't done it already. And please, by all means, fill out that census form. Fill out that census form. Tomorrow in Georgia, early voting, right? So we've got a couple of things that we need to be making sure. If you haven't, you know, gotten that absentee ballot, in fact, you don't need to hear it from me. Dr. Jeanine Abrams, McLean, this is your wheelhouse. Talk to everybody about some very important things that we should be doing. If it's not today, absolutely tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Shaunya, and thank you to Girls Inc. for inviting me to be here today. Everything that has been discussed so far is linked to the census, whether you know it or not. So I'm the vice president at Fair Count, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that was founded by my sister, Tracy Abrams. And we focus on the census, making sure that everybody is counted in the census, and also making sure that we are also using the census as a catalyst to continue civic engagement. Before this, I was a scientist at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And so when you talk about health disparities, when you talk about nutrition and food deserts and inability to get the nutrition that our communities need, when you talk about financial issues that people are facing at this current time and that people will have to recover from, all of that is tied to the census. Mental health is tied to the census. When we complete the census, we are getting our fair share of $1.5 trillion in federal funding that goes to over 300 programs that impact our lives on a daily basis. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but what I will say is that we, Black people, Black and brown people, but Black people in particular, are historically undercounted, including and Black women are missed completely in the census historically. And so by participating in the census, we can get the financial resources that we deserve and we are owed from the government, as well as increase our political power so that we can change the political infrastructure that we have right now. And so I will stop there because I know we're going to get to talk about a whole bunch of things. But yes, you can go to my2020census.gov right now and fill it out. Well, listen right now, but then when we're done, you go and fill it out. But I will stop there and let Shaunya continue with the discussion.
We want to, all of us, I speak on behalf of all of us and all of the folks I see chatting. I need y'all to ask some questions because I can't do the chat thing and the question thing. So you all, thank you. Okay, I see some, all right, anonymous attendee, I see that. I see your question and I'll get to it in just a second, but we want to thank you and your sister and the organization for what you're doing to ensure a fair count. I think all of us know just how key and critical this upcoming election is, and I promise you I will not get political, but I just know how important it is. And so if you find yourself just bored, please make sure that you are staying informed about what's happening in your community. So speaking of, hold on, let me ask this question. I'm very excited because I want you folks who are asking questions to know that we really are answering these questions. So anonymous attendee says, well, speaking of voting, are we supposed to vote as a community or vote out our conscience? Can we talk about preparing for the future, the capacity of life insurance, our marginalized? Listen to me, anonymous attendee, you got 50,000 questions all in one. Let's just talk about that first one. I'm with you there. Speaking of voting, are we supposed to vote as a community or vote our conscience? Dr. Jeanine, you want to take that?
I think at the very, and again, I am not a politician. I'm a scientist, but I do say this. I think that regardless, you need to vote. Now, yes. if you get to the voting booth and you're like, I'm voting my conscience today, do it. If you get yes. to the voting booth and you say, maybe this goes against my conscience, but I know it's what's best for the community, and then do it. just vote. And sorry, those are my children who are here. They are really loud.
Okay.
But
my husband out. I made him go to PetSmart. I put him out.
Yeah. Sorry, but the important thing is to vote, because by voting, you get to change all of the subsequent questions that you just brought up. All of those are impacted by voting.
One other question real quick, Dr. Jeanine, you've got someone ask, Kim Shumway is also asking, is the census anonymous?
Yes, not only, it's the census is private and protected. So whatever information you put on the census is actually it's confidential for 72 years. So a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I get questions, if I have 3 people on my lease, but actually I have 8 people living with me, will my landlord find out about that? And will I get kicked out? Not for 72 years. They asked Jeanine, I have somebody in my home that has a warrant out for their arrest. Am I dry snitching by putting them on my census? Not for 72 years. They won't know. So your data are confidential. They are protected. And if anyone shares your information from the Census Bureau, they are subject to up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. And those Census Bureau workers are subject to that for the entirety of their lives. So the census is safe and confidential, and you should do it, because in Georgia, if you do not do it, this is just specific for Georgia, but by not completing the census, you cost your community between $2,300 and $3,600
yes, ma'am. Say that again.
Every year for the next 10 years.
That's
and
right.
I'm going to throw out one last statistic, Shaunya. In before the pandemic, before all this craziness, there was a study that estimated that 1.7 million Black people could be undercounted in the census. If that happens, our communities will miss out on $3.3 billion with a B, $billion across the nation every year for the next 10 years. And that money does not disappear. It gets shifted over to communities that have been counted, which in most cases are white communities.
Yes.
So
okay, now ladies,
counted.
yes, please be counted. Ladies, I'm gonna need you all's help. I think some of you guys are also on this Zoom webinar chat, and you can see some of the stuff that's coming up. So I did want to say who is this? Gina Benton, thank you for tuning in with us. We thank you. She wanted us to remind folks that jury duty is not tied to the census. You know, we got more myths in our community about what is tied to the census. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Somebody else wanted us to let you know, Dr. Jeanine, that, should let them babies in the room, because we are I think that's Michelle Rucker. She says, look, mommy duties, that's a whole nother hat that we women are wearing in this time. And I wanted to share with the very first person who had asked. You had asked some questions specifically about insurance. And I know that Melissa tends to talk about a little bit of that, but do know that this is just our first girlfriend conversation. And based on some of what you're asking, if we don't have the experts here, we will absolutely get them to the table, to their own dining room tables, which is where I am, if we have to, for the next go round. Dr. Angela, can I ask you, excuse me, a question? Every one of us is thinking, okay, with all of these reopening strategies, and we all are supposed to be either going back to work or back into the mainstream. How important is this testing, and when and should everybody get tested? And if they get tested once, is it only as good as that day? I mean, I know some of these questions people are wanting to know as it relates to the coronavirus.
Well, what we're understanding is that the information is evolving every day. At one point in time, they talked about that there were only 2 strains, an L strain and an H strain, and that the H strain was the the more aggressive one, that is the one that most people end up in hospitals, plus possibly on ventilators. But there's now thoughts that there may be greater than 5 strains. And so as we look at testing, the issue may become that you may have symptoms. Now we're working towards people can go even if they don't have symptoms. But the question becomes, if you are infected possibly with a strain, recover from it. Is it that if you show signs that you have it again, is it that it's a reinfection of, say, strain A, or is it that you've been infected with a new strain? So we don't know.
Yes.
But in terms of the ability, certainly, you know, we should be in a position where everybody should be allowed to be tested, not only for the virus, but also for the potential to look at antibodies and specifically which strain is involved, but also looking at contacts. It was New York with Governor Cuomo that they found that there were 664 people that were sheltered in who were not essential workers, did not go and use any public transportation, that tested positive for coronavirus, and they have no idea how that's happening. And so we do need to make sure, if we have a family member that has made any contact, that for sure we get the other family members tested. Other people may not choose or want us to do those things, but it becomes a necessary issue in terms of how we self-quarantine.
Absolutely. And I promise you people, I'm seeing your comments about Miss George, please save us some money. I'm getting to Miss George. Reverend, let me ask you this. When we're talking about trying to get back into the community, what have you all been doing to ensure that your congregants are trying to stay safe?
There's a number of things that I think people are doing, and I think it is definitely not a one size fits all. People are looking at, as a matter of fact, we had a conversation this morning. We are going to a park that is across the street from our church next week to meet for the first time since, you know, we shut down, to really have some conversation as a congregation about where we go from here, to determine what I need for them to get a chance to talk about how they feel about a thing. You know, sometimes we're so churchy, we're not a whole lot of good to folk. And so we need to be real honest about our fears and our issues, our concerns, and how we need to come together as the church, because you're looking at the church is not a building. And so I'm not as concerned about getting back into the sanctuary as I am about dealing with how we're feeling. Yes. I think that attaches to our mental health, of course, our emotional health, and it's all tied together. So there are people that are doing parking lot church. There are people who are doing all kinds of things. And then there are some who have just decided that they're going to do what they do anyway. I'm concerned that that we have put God into this box that says that we can just do whatever we want to do and God is going to cover us. But I believe that God gives us really good sense. He talks about giving us power and a sound mind.
Yes, and wisdom.
Soundness, the soundness of my mind says that we need to have some conversation. I don't even want to make that total decision as a pastor with the congregation, because I think that everybody needs to be involved. And so we're coming up with a number of different things. Society opening up, you know, is one thing, and different places are opening up in different ways. Today here in Dayton, I'm actually in Dayton, Ohio, and there are restaurants that are opening up for outside service. So people are asking, well, do you think I should go? I'm like, I don't know if you should go. I think you have to determine what your risk is. You have to determine what's going to be wise for you, because it's not just you. And this is how we talk to our young people. It is not just you. You might never get it, even though there have been young people who have, a number of young people come down with the virus and have actually died from it. But what you have to think about is the fact that when you go over to your grandmother's house later.
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
that's right.
And she's 85 and has hypertension and has diabetes, like Dr. Angela said. I think we need to be wise. We need to pray, but we need to be wise. We need to pray, but we need to watch the news. Our governor in Ohio comes on every day at 2:00. We need to pray, but we need to listen to the experts. We need to pray, but we also need to just sit back a minute and calm down.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and stop being so, you know, I'm a shopper. I love to shop. Haven't been to my favorite stores in over 2 months, right? But I've learned to replace it with some things that are better for me.
That's right. Well, okay, so then that means you done You done transition me to Melissa, because Melissa, these people about to blow me up if you don't tell them how to keep Reverend Kima from going to the store and keeping us from just going too far. And Tristan, you sit tight, because I really want to make sure that before, we got a time to go, but I want to make sure that you are prepared to tell us how we should, you know how to say spiritually in sound mind, but you're going to have to tell us how I'm not going to, you know, hurt somebody and instead send them to the PetSmart, because I got this 2 o'clock event. You're gonna have to help us there. Melissa, everybody's asking, about those financial tips to get us through this pandemic?
Okay, well, let's get into some of these things right now. So I know that everybody's been home for a while, and while you may be using a lot more toilet paper and tissue paper towels, there are some things that should have gone down in your budget. And some of those things might have been gas for your car. There might be hair and nails. We just talked about how we hadn't put makeup on for a couple of months. So maybe you're not spending money in those areas. And maybe even some extracurricular activities, things that you used to do before that maybe cost money. So let's talk a little bit more about the way that we're going to save money. I already mentioned roundup services. Like
go into that a little bit, Melissa, because that folks were really feeling that.
Go into what now?
The roundup services.
Tell the roundup services. So I know Bank of America has a roundup account where every time you swipe your debit card or you have a transaction, it rounds up the change to the next dollar and it moves that change into a savings account. And there are other services similar to that. I just wanted to mention that Bank of America was one. I'm not giving them an endorsement, but just saying that they are one of the banks that does have that service. Here's where a lot of us mess up in situations like that. We may have some type of roundup service, or maybe we're doing a direct deposit into a savings account. But for those of us that are not disciplined, if we have that account set up as an overdraft, and no longer do people pull out their checkbook register and their little debit card register, we just swipe. And once that account is overdraft, we're pulling the money right back out of savings that we were trying to, build up in the first place. So we need to probably disable the overdraft component of the savings account. For some of us, maybe even having our savings account as an online banking account as opposed to having one that's brick and mortar. If I can go on any corner and hit Wells Fargo or Citizens Trust and pull the money right back out, I'm defeating the purpose. So we have to be very intentional about how we're going to save. We have to be intentional about how we're going to reduce our expenses and where that money is going to go. And then also for some of us, there are a lot of micro investment accounts that are out right now, which are very attractive and work very well. One of them is Acorns, which is one that I use. There's also Stash and Robinhood. It does the same type of thing. It takes the money that it rounds up our transactions, and then it moves that money into an investment account. And then we can decide how that money is going to be invested: moderately, conservatively, aggressively. We can add additional monies to it if we want. I do know that even Acorns will notice that if your account is a little low and it should be pulling out that money that rounded up, it will actually stop. So it can kind of save you there. But those are just a couple of tips that we can do in terms of savings.
Good. That's good stuff, Melissa. I'm sure you want to come back with a few others. Ooh, Dr. Angela, you about to wear folks out with Soul Train coming off the wall. It'll be okay. Y'all leave Dr. Angela alone. Her little Soul Train and Dr. Cornelius thing was falling off the wall. It's okay. It's okay. Tristan, let me ask you this, and I can feel this question here from another anonymous attendee, because I get it. Because I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I almost, like, for real, have a panic attack every time I need to go to the grocery store or I need to gas up the car and I got to it is so incredibly stressful. So it says, for the mental health expert, how do you deal with the anxiety of going back out into the world? This person also gets anxious if they don't have their 6 feet.
So understanding that a lot of people's anxiety peaks out of uncertainty. So uncertain situations just increases our anxiety, and understanding that it looks different in each individual. So again, that self-reflection and knowing yourself is a big component of how you handle your anxiety and how you handle your stress. So if you know that going out, again, for me, like going out is the issue. So I'm like masked up, hazmat suit. So I know if I'm gonna go, I need to get everything I need in that one sitting. and
Yes,
not
ma'am.
do a lot of back and forth. And before I move on, I want to piggyback off of something the Reverend mentioned in regards to those people who are kind of out there just, you know, doing what they do and not really complying. One thing we have to understand is that those people were already functioning in survival mode prior to this even happening.
That's good. That's
that
good.
transition wasn't imperative. This whole pandemic really hasn't hurt them in their thought process and their functioning because they were already in survival mode with dealing with their own life crisis.
Oh, Tristan, that is good. That is good stuff there. You know, I have never in my life thought about that. But you know what? That means that we too need to grant some people grace. It might be from 6 feet, but we might need to grant some folks grace because I tell you the truth. I was at the grocery store. Yes, ma'am, Tracy, I see you. I was at the grocery store, and the young little man, Mr. Chris, who was the bagger, everybody got on masks. We all standing 6 feet apart. They got the little glass thing for the woman who was counting the money, bless her heart. And Chris is over there with no mask on, bagging my groceries. And I was thinking to myself, now how is the mother in me gonna say something to this young boy? And I felt pretty safe that I wasn't gonna get shot in the store. But you know, you gotta worry about that too, because this is really taking people over the edge. But I had to kindly say, hey, Chris, how you doing? He said, great. I said, Chris, you see my mask? And he says, yes. I said, that's because I'm trying to look out for you, son. I said, now I don't need for you to look out for me. Where is your mask? Did they not give you a mask? And by this time, the lady at the cashier was like, yes, they did. They gave him a mask. They gave him a mask. So we've got to find ways also as mothers to be able to communicate to these to the younger folks in a manner in which they can hear it. Because there's no sense in going in, you know, on these folks if the end goal is for them to protect themselves and to protect us.
Shaunya,
Yes.
can I say something about that?
Yes, hold on. Tristan wanted to follow up, and
No,
then
go ahead.
Hudson,
I'm sorry.
But
go ahead, Tristan.
also understanding that some of those resources are luxuries. Like, you know, like a month ago, toilet paper was nowhere to be found. You know, so understand that some things are luxury. And I know we see a lot of people out in the streets, running the streets and walking the streets, but everyone doesn't have the luxury of a safe home or a safe home environment. So like you said, extending that grace when we see people out in the community, extending that grace and understanding that sometimes they're not just trying to break the rules, but their home life isn't as comfortable or as, you know, functioning as it needs to be.
That's right. That's good. Dr. Angela, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying. The fact is the grace is needed in terms of dealing with different individuals, but it's also important to make sure people are wearing the mask the right way, wearing it on your chin, not covering your nose. It's all about the protection of any entryway between your eyes, your nose, your mouth, and your hands having any contact. So if you're wearing the mask down here, then there's still that entryway, whether you're 6 feet apart or not. The fact is, if you choose to wear gloves, as a surgeon, I'm accustomed to putting on gloves, but a lot of people are not. And so you can place the gloves, but you can certainly cross-contaminate in grabbing things. You go and you grab an item off a shelf, that's fine. But then if you take those gloves off the wrong way and put your hands near your face and don't sanitize, you still put yourself at risk. Coronavirus has been found on the bottom of shoes. So there's that possibility that for me and my office and other people in medical fields, but even in other places, that when you come home, you might decide, I'm going to go through my garage, I'm going to strip down and take everything off and leave the shoes in the garage. But the fact is, since there's a possibility that it can stay on shoes and on plastic and on steel for a number of days, it's good to get wipes or use Lysol, do something and spray the bottom of those shoes or wherever else, because if you come back out and you're going to put your hands on those shoes, since they're not slippers, then you still can put yourself at risk.
Yes. Okay, so check this out. I'm trying to keep us, you know, make sure that we hit some of the important and the high points, but it's so nice to be able to feel like we just had a conversation with some girlfriends, right? So someone has said, okay, this may seem unimportant, but I look a mess. My hair has been in twists for 3 weeks now. I bathe, I brush my teeth, I wear sweats or shorts, but I'm feeling real ugly. She says, and this may sound shallow, but should I really continue to get dressed up every day or just wait till we go back to whatever our new normal is going to be? Tracy, that has your name written all over it.
Yes, and when we started out, I was talking about how you have to show up. You still have to show up. And I don't know if you have to do Zoom calls, like most people have to do some kind of teleconference call. But even if you don't, getting up, taking a shower, it makes you feel good. It increases your energy, and it definitely, I feel like, increases your health. And that's a mental thing. And right now, our mental health is what's so important, because I'm a mom too. And this juggling, the businesses, the school, it's a lot. And so the women that are watching, we are all going through the same thing. I might look like I'm cute right now. And because I look cute, I feel good. But the stress is still there. But I'm going to tell you, that shower, it relieves it. You take some deep breaths, and I promise you, you will have a better day because you will feel better. And you will look good, you smell good, and it matters. It absolutely matters. And sometimes you only have to look good from the waist up, you know?
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Now watch what I do here. Let me see if I can get my thoughts together. So one of the ways in which, Tristan, I feel better is when I'm productive. Right? One of the ways that I can keep the harmony in my house, Reverend and Doctor, is to continue to find stuff to do in the house.
That's me.
One of the ways in which I do that, Tracy, is I've been cleaning out closets.
Oh, that's me.
Yes. And so let me bring this back to you, Melissa, because I can't really count it in the census. So, so Melissa, let me bring it back to you. You find things that you can, at some point when this is over, whether it's give to Goodwill or consignment, where you can find ways to make money. So I'm asking all of this to say, Tracy, don't you think that right about now is a good time to get rid of some of that stuff in the closets that, you know, old to us, new for someone else, a blessing for someone else, and could be a financial blessing?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of online places that you can take pictures and sell it and have extra income coming in. If it's something high end, the Real, I don't know if you heard of that.
Tracy, did you say Real?
Real. And it's a real company.
We girlfriends, we get you.
So, and the Real, they'll actually come and pick up items. So you might have a high-end handbag or some shoes that you know just been sitting in your closet, and it could be some nice extra cash for you right now.
I love it.
And we talked about shopping a little bit. Some people are shopping, some people are not shopping. This is a great time to shop. And I'm not just saying that because I have online stores, but people are having real deals and sales. And it might be some things that you need. I'm the type of person that when I can't control what's going on, I clean, I organize, because I can control that. But I really do feel like it's a reflection of life when you clear out and declutter.
Yes, ma'am.
It brings some balance. So
yes,
the cabinet has been reorganized.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sure you liked what we're saying, Melissa, right? Because this is yet another way, as we're all trying to figure out how to become pandemic proof in this second wave of trying to assure that our accounts can withstand the next whatever this is going to be. That's an option.
Yeah, it is. And of course, I don't need to go into how, we're a society of excess. And so this is a good time. I have done quite a bit of cleaning out myself. In fact, this necklace I found in my office, I hadn't seen it in about 2 or 3 years. So I myself have put some things on eBay, and my PayPal account is getting a little fatter right now. I'm excited about it. So that's an awesome opportunity to get rid of some things and make a little extra cash at the same time. I certainly am a proponent of that.
Yes. Dr. Jeanine, I had a question here from Montez Diamond, and I'm not sure if you can address it, but I feel like you might be able to. It's asking about organizations. What organizations are connecting with the homeless population to ensure that they can receive their unclaimed stimulus funds? Do you have any idea about that?
Wow. For the unclaimed stimulus funds, I do not know.
Okay.
I cannot answer that question.
That's okay. I just wanted to see if anybody on the conference knew. I just wanted to make sure that they knew I wasn't ignoring their question. And so when we're talking about This is good, Tristan, this is for you. When we're, Jewel Parham, thank you, Jewel. How important is self-care with regards to mental health? And Jewel also asked, how important is self-care, period, during this entire pandemic? And like, you know, and self-care means a little something different for everyone.
Absolutely. Just like what Tracy was saying, you know, everything she was doing with the beautification, that is a part of self-care. So that's you getting up every day and tending to yourself. It's not just the superficial, you know, the makeup, the lipstick, the hair, but you pouring into yourself. And it's highly important. That's something I preach to all, you know, my clients. Like, you have to take care of yourself first before you can even take care of anybody else. Just like if you're on a plane, they tell you put your mask on first before you put anybody else's mask on. So you have to pour into yourself. But like you said, it does look different for everyone. Because again, my self-care might be, like you said, decluttering my home. That could be my self-care. Or my self-care could be going to play in my garden. It's based on that individual and what they prefer and how that's going to rebuild and restore who they are. But it's very important. I believe self-care is an ongoing, consistent thing, and it helps you stay stable and mentally strong to handle whatever's going on and whatever's coming your way.
Dr. Hudson, hold on, Dr. Jeanine wanted to jump in. Go ahead.
And this is just from a personal point of view. I want to say that, you know, a lot of times in the Black community, we don't practice self-care. We don't go to therapists. You know, I'm a Christian. I believe in the power of prayer, but I also believe in the power of a therapist. And there are a lot of online therapists that you can access, but then also with work. One thing that I have noticed, and I was traveling like crazy. I had to cancel trips when the pandemic hit. But I feel that even with all the travel I was doing, I'm working more now than I was before the pandemic hit. And this is sitting at home. And then when you compound that with a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old boy trying to bust into this room every time you see me do this, that's me shutting the door. And, you know, but I think it's important that if you have been blessed enough to still have a job and to still have sick leave, right? Even though we are on vacation leave, even though we're stuck at home, take it. At Fair Count, we give our employees the 15th of every month off for self-care. Y'all don't do nothing today, just go home. And we tell people, if you're sick, take a sick day. We had someone that took a week-long vacation last week. He ain't go nowhere, but but it was what he needed.
Right.
Because he had already planned that vacation, and he wasn't on a beach, but it was a break from this new reality that we're in. And so I just want to piggyback and just say, self-care is key. Please do it.
Can I?
Yes, and go ahead, Tristan.
Just being mindful of that, because I think it is, and that's boundaries. You got to exercise boundaries. You have to have those boundaries, because that's a part of your self-care. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. So if you're not going to preserve yourself, then you are going to struggle with self-care. The only issue I see in the workforce is a lot of people do take leave and they do take vacation, but then when they come back, they're like just
right back in,
bombarded with so much stuff.
Yes.
So we have to not only just work on self-care, but also implement that into our society as well. Because a lot of companies talk about it, but they don't have the actual establishments that promote self-care.
Yes, ma'am. Say that. I just want everybody knowing that who's watching and that those questions that you guys are asking about how can we assist with the various organizations or how we can get in touch with them. I'm going to ask our panelists to also put some of their information, and then when we do the wrap up, if they can, you guys can also let folks know how they can reach out to you, because one of the questions I keep getting, Dr. Jeanine, is about how they can assist with Fair Count. So folks do know that we'll do that on the backside. Dr. Angela, folks are asking when they should start making their regular doctor appointments, even their mammogram appointments and their annual physicals in the midst of this pandemic. What's your answer?
So it hit everybody. I mean, even in the medical field, for me, I had to shut down my office. I opened Monday because we needed all of that PPE, all that disinfectant in high quantities, masks, all those things. So one thing for people to consider, many offices are slowly opening up. As a surgeon, we couldn't even operate electively because there were COVID patients on every floor of most hospitals. And so it wasn't safe for those that didn't have the virus to necessarily be there for something like a removal of their gallbladder or some laparoscopic surgery. So first thing is to remember that now, thanks to the pandemic in particular, a lot of us started doing telemedicine. So I was doing telehealth where patients were able to call in and interact with me and still have some of their needs addressed. Now, certainly you can't do the visual of all the parts of the body that I have to deal with, but there's some things I was able to do with refilling medication or changing medication because of bleeding and problems that people were facing. So make sure you reach out to your doctors and see if they do any of those things if you have certain concerns. In terms of working otherwise, it's important that we don't deny our healthcare. We may be afraid or concerned about coronavirus, but there is going to be the loss of an opportunity in terms of picking up other diagnoses, sexually transmitted infections, abnormal pap smears with HPV, cervical cancer, breast masses. And so now it's all about connecting with your OBGYNs and your doctors and seeing what their policies are in terms of opening their practices. At present, for me, we've set it up where patients stay in their car. They get
that's good.
Call us to let us know that they've arrived in the parking lot. I have one of my staff who goes out, mask and all, and we'll ask them all of the intake questions that are needed. We try and get as much of their history handled electronically so that they won't have to deal with what allergies, what issues, whatever. They'll then come in right into their room that has already been decontaminated from every knob and everything you can think of to have their visit with me. I still have a mask and still have certain things on, but I will try and spend the time with them, address their issues. And then if they have to go to the lab, and then otherwise, here's your orders for your mammogram if you need it, and out the door. And so we limit how many people are in the waiting room, those people that can sit in their car for their visit, fine. Anybody else who has issues with transportation, it's spaced out in the waiting room in terms of being 6 feet apart. So it's all about having a comfort level for the actual patient that they can feel safe with coming in. Because since we don't have universal testing, which is what we needed, it would be nice to be in a position where you could say, my office, every single staff member is negative. Abbott, one of the makers of some of this testing, can do coronavirus testing and get results back in about 13 minutes. But they have not put them in all facilities. Otherwise, we could say your appointment is at 10:30. We'll see you at 10. Check your status. You're negative. You can come in. You can sit 6 feet away, but when you come in here, you know that no one in the office has it, and neither do you.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know. It just must be my time, y'all. Y'all can tell me happy birthday later. I'm having a birthday next week. And
Happy
all of a sudden, I'm in the 50 plus club. And like all of a sudden, if I don't see an OBGYN, because all of a sudden, I don't know if it's the pandemic, because all of a sudden I'm doing this all day long. It must be the pandemic. It's got to be the pandemic.
Pandemic's not helping.
Oh, no, it's not helping. No, ma'am. Okay, Melissa George, I have a question for you. This is a good one. Anonymous attendee. As a sole member LLC business owner that has received PPP stimulus funds, how do I show that I paid myself in the form of a payroll payment, the PPP funds, to justify that I use these funds appropriately?
This is an excellent question and definitely in my wheelhouse. It's first going to depend on if this person pays themselves as a W-2 employee and has a payroll service, or if they do owner draws and pay themselves as 1099. So the answer is really going to differ. Obviously, if they have the payroll component, they can actually print off their payroll summary showing how they paid themselves and their other employees, and that will be justification to get those PPP funds turned from a loan into a grant. If they did the owner draws, depending upon the lender, it may be as simple as showing canceled checks that were paid to the person, the individual, or some other components of their bank statement. So that's probably as clear as an answer as I can give anonymously, but they obviously can contact me for a free phone call and we can discuss.
Right, which means you need to put your information in the little chat box thing.
Yes.
Make sure that, yes. So that took care of that owner draws as 1099. Y'all get in touch with Melissa. She's gonna tell you how to do that. Okay, so I keep getting a bunch of, you're so welcome. I keep getting a bunch of questions about our children. What are we going to do with our kids? I mean, obviously, most of us will have to defer to the authorities about when we send our kids back to school. But you got a ton of kids right now, right, that are just tremendously, if we're anxious, surely they're anxious, right? So between Reverend and Tristan, y'all talk to us. How do we keep our children, our nieces, nephews encouraged and answer those questions that we really don't even have the answers to in this time when we're feeling a little anxious ourselves? Well, how do we do that?
I think that one of the things, and I'm sure Tristan has some additional ideas, but one of the things that has really been helpful, I almost hate to admit, has been the internet in terms of finding ideas that other people are using to keep their children engaged. There's been so many wonderful ideas, you know, about doing things within your yard, changing your yard into an obstacle course, giving them opportunities to play outside like we used to do. And so it's been really good in terms of just generating some different ways of living and of experiencing stuff. This one lady built some kind of an obstacle course even in the house where the child would have to go under a chair and jump over something and read something. And it's almost like what is it called? And a scavenger hunt too, a combination of things. I think it requires something though that many of us may not have. And that is the forethought to really be able to deal with all of this. It's a lot. And my child is grown and gone and down there with some of y'all in Atlanta. So I think though that what's been helpful is actually to having some discussion with them, age appropriate, of course, but beginning to ask them how they feel about certain things.
Yes.
I think we think that kids are not aware. Some of us grew up in a time where you didn't have certain conversations in front of children, and children are experiencing all of this just like we are. And I think we have to provide an opportunity for them to express how they're feeling. Had my brother-in-law's daughter had a meltdown because she hadn't seen any of her friends in 2 months. And even though they could see each other on Zoom or some other kind of social media platform, she missed playing with her friends and just had a complete crying, tears, snot everywhere kind of meltdown. And he was just, I don't know what to say. Maybe there's nothing that we can say. But to admit, you know what, I miss my friends too. And sometimes we just need to love on our kids and allow them to process what's going on with them, just like we're processing.
Yes, ma'am.
If we're being open and honest and actually taking care of our mental health. It's not just about talking to God, but you want to talk to folks too. It's about having girlfriend conversations like this. So go ahead, Tristan.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. I know I had a lot of clients, especially my children, who are going through it right now. They're feeling it because we have to understand that one of the 5 core desires as human beings is the desire to bond, to be around other people and build those relationships. And that's what children do at school with their peers. They build those relationships. And not only are, we see it as socializing, but not only are they socializing, but they're also enhancing their communication skills, their decision-making skills, and their, problem-solving skills. They're still practicing these skills within their realm and within a safe place. That's why it's imperative to have that social connection. And a lot of them are functioning at a deficit right now because they can't practice those skills and they can't build on those bonds. So it is, very hard for them. But as parents, and I know as a mom myself, I have a teenager, and we naturally want to stop our children from hurting. Like that's what we want to do as, women, as moms. We don't want to see our baby crying. But understanding that it's a lot of growth that comes from those tough times. It's a lot of growth and development. And that's how people learn. Just like a baby, if they're learning to walk, they learn how to walk by failing and falling. And that's how they develop those skills. So in those tough times, you can still help them process it age appropriately, like the Reverend said, and not just process the information, but also process their emotions, because we want them to use both left and right side of the brain where they have logic and emotion to be able to comprehend what's going on and to tap into themselves. So when something in the future happens, they can revert back to those same skill sets. But the most important thing we have to do as parents is we have to model that for them. We can't expect them to do something that we're not showing them how to do.
Right.
Right.
And that's what we have to do as parents. So if you see a deficit in your child, do again some self-reflection and see, okay, so are they just displaying what they see in me? Where did they learn this? And how can I help them better process this through my actions? Because we are their first teachers.
Right.
That's right.
And I was actually going to say, to piggyback off of what Tristan was saying, our kids look to us how to respond to things. So be mindful of the conversations you're having, how we're reacting to things, because if we're panicking, we're teaching them to panic. If we're calm about it, even if there's reason to panic, they're looking to us how to get through this. We don't have the answers about the kids going to school, but I'm not panicking about it. The answers are going to come and we're all going to get them around the same time. So it's just being mindful of the energy that your kids are picking up, because they'll take on that energy.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I was going to say, it's about
Hold on,
smiling.
Angela, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's about smiling and still laughing. As a society, we've kind of moved away from that. You might run across different strangers and they can't see you smiling as well with that mask on. There aren't any fist bumps and high fives to people that may be acquaintances or friends anymore. It's no, I'm not touching, and people have shied away from doing that. So we've got to find other ways to express love to each other. The other thing I was thinking about is that reflection that the Reverend was talking about, it puts you in a position of thinking, you've got to reimagine things. We spend so much time teaching our kids how to dream big, to be smart and strong and bold. We've got to be thinking those things ourselves. So maybe there are some things, some gifts and talents that God has given you that you really haven't explored, whether it's because you weren't exposed to that as a child or didn't have time, make time, but now you might have the opportunity to look at some of these master classes with learning how to cook certain things. We also need to look at our family members, our treasured family members who know how to knit and sew, and they do mason work, that they can put their foot in that gumbo, but we didn't learn how to do that from the generations gone by. So now there's that opportunity to learn and maybe become entrepreneurs as a result of that. That old lemonade stand that kids would make, and then ultimately they have a big company where they're CEO. It's time to look at those opportunities too.
That's good. Okay, I'm gonna modify the question because this is one of those things that irks me, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So Tracy, folks want to know about your clothes, but you know me and my people, we like to know about the hookup. And so, you know, somebody on here wants to understand, do we get any kind of discount for being on the girlfriend call? So I hate to put you on the spot, but I want to answer the anonymous attendee's question.
And you know what? I'm not on the spot. I too am a small business that is trying to make it through this time. So asking for a discount is better than not supporting at all. So I don't mind it. For the girlfriends, attendees, I would love to offer 20% off.
Bless your heart.
So I will give a code. I guess I'll put it in a chat. You can use the code LOVE20. LOVE.
There you go. Don't even put it in the chat. They need to be listening. If you didn't hear it right here, right now, love chat.
So you can look good on your next chat or your next call.
I just need you to know, Tracy, I just need you to know, as soon as I was reading the initial flyer, and so I just need you to know, I already saw, oh, she does call. I said, Tracy, Nicole, let me look at what's going on. Support the sister, absolutely.
Because Reverend Kima already told us she liked to shop.
Yeah. And listen, support is a verb. It doesn't have to be financial. So you just going on and cruising and saying, I love the clothes, that is support. So understand that with these small businesses that are, you know, trying to survive, just talking about them is support.
Right. So Dr. Jeanine, let me shift for just a second. You know, you Abrams girls, y'all stay involved with all things census and election. And I mentioned that obviously we're in the season, and you've got some folks who didn't necessarily believe in the whole absentee ballot application and I'm going to get the ballot and then I'm going to fill out the ballot and the ballot's going to be counted. And so I'm showing up tomorrow to early vote. Anything that you all want to talk to us about as it relates to either or, the absentee process or just going out even early voting tomorrow in Georgia?
So again, I will say this is me as a former public health official, or not official, public health worker, that you need to be safe. There's, if you have the option to vote with an absentee ballot, it's actually better for several reasons. I can say for instance, in Georgia, because by doing that, there's actually a paper trail of how you voted. There's a record of how you voted. The other thing is that by voting by mail, you reduce the lines and the risk for those people who have no option but to vote in person. Right. So you take yourself out of the line. That means that poll workers won't come into contact with as many people that can get them sick. It also means that it gives you more space for people to space out 6 feet apart if people aren't trying to pack into these early voting places or the polling places. So I would say I encourage everyone to go ahead and vote by mail. But again, there's just people with disabilities that can't, or people that, there are certain people that have to do it in person. And so if we can do our part and do it by mail, then I say, let's do it and just work on keeping everybody safe.
And just so that everyone knows, there are multiple, because we have so many different people here from different states, there are different deadlines for the absentee ballot, asking for the applications and the like. So rather than us give a hard deadline, since we have so many women from all across the country, check with your Secretary of State. Just Google the Secretary of State's office in your particular state, and you'll see immediately what that deadline is. I don't want to quote a deadline knowing that that's the Georgia deadline versus the Ohio deadline or whatever the case may be. One of the things that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The other organization that my sister founded is called Fair Fight. You can go to fairfight.com and learn more about what's going on in your state and the rules around voting in your state.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Angela?
One other thing to consider, I know in Cobb County, they're actually making boxes that you can, almost like a mailbox that you can drop that absentee vote off. And so
that's right. Several counties are doing that. Fulton County as well. In fact, y'all pray with me tomorrow. My assignment, my TV assignment tomorrow is to go to the early voting location and do my report. So I knew that I had to do that. I see you, Tracy. I see you, Tracy. I see you, Dr. Angela. I don't know if you saw that, but I see you. I understand.
I need for you to wear gloves. Keep your hand, make sure you have your pen.
Yes, ma'am.
As you're wearing those gloves, because you do that little signature area.
Yes.
With your Republican or Democratic or Independent. But then remember, keep those gloves on. Punch in whatever you're going to do with your vote. Take off those gloves the right way when you get out of there, and certainly sanitize if that's what you're going to do.
Dr. Angela, I had not thought about that with the pen, because you're right. When you go to the counter, they hand you the pen to sign the, take your pen,
everyone
take
sit
your gloves,
at this
take
table.
your gloves off when you get there. That's good.
Yeah, everyone
Dr.
sits
Angela,
at this table and sign. You keep your pen with you. If they ask you and verify your name and anything else with signature, use your pen. Be very careful.
Yes. In a moment, ladies, I'm going to ask you guys to wrap up, and I want each of you to have your final thoughts. But I wanted to go back to—
before you do, can I ask one other?
Reverend Kima, I'm sorry, Angela.
I was going to say one other thing, because I'm looking at you talking about those hot flashes. It's definitely important for you to know, in this pandemic, everyone needs to know about vitamin D. The severity of the illnesses that are happening with the coronavirus are accentuated because of vitamin D deficiency. They've got studies that show in Finland and Sweden, places that don't get a lot of sunlight, that the fortification of vitamin D in their foods is still keeping their risk of COVID down. Whereas in sunny places like Italy and Spain, the risk is sky high and they've got deficiency of vitamin D. And so many African Americans and minorities are walking around with low vitamin D levels. We certainly get that from sun exposure, but we're sheltering in, so some people are getting more deficient from that alone. But the other key is it doesn't mean everybody should be going out and trying to get gobs of vitamin D, like somebody talked about doing some other things, but there's appropriate amounts of vitamin D, but understand that the severity of that virus is affected by that, and that if you get your supplementation, that it will help reduce that. D is important for bone, hair, skin, nails. It reduces the risk of fatigue and depression. So some of these other things are getting accentuated with the pandemic, and our health may be bad because our D levels are low. And so it's important that we fix that. So that's huge. The other thing I want to make sure you all know is that the coronavirus has been identified in semen and in stool. They have not seen yet whether there is going to be any kind of association with sexual transmission, but it's important for you guys to know that.
Oh, wow. Dr. Angela, you just dropped a load on us, and thank you so much for the
I got
vitamin D.
to make sure I blast that in before
Yes, that's
Yeah.
good stuff. That is good stuff. Reverend Kima, you know, we were talking earlier about how beneficial, as you said, in some cases, being online has been. But I realized that I'm going to have to pull back a little on my social intake. I'm doing too much. It's embarrassing. I'm not even going to tell y'all what my little screen time thing, you know, you keep your little,
Yes.
I'm too embarrassed to tell you how many hours
Yes.
in the day that it told me that I was on there. So but between you, Reverend Kima, and Tristan, talk to us about, you know, I'm old school too. I like to get just the old school Bible and, like, you know, turn the page.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those at church. But talk to us about the us being cognizant of just too much social.
I think that what this time has opened up for me, and I think that it's something that we probably all need to take a look at if we haven't, is solitude. Solitude is so incredibly powerful for rejuvenation and reassignment. And so as I look at social media and even all the great things that we're doing, I'm finding that in this season, getting up first thing in the morning and spending some time alone, spending some time either out on my patio or just looking out of the window, just listening to the birds singing. I'm telling you, just very, very simple things to gather my mind and also to just count my blessings.
Yes, ma'am.
In all of this craziness, the one thing that we got to remember to do is count our blessings and really refocus or reshift our thinking, because we've got so many things that we're thinking about that are struggles. And really, you know, we've got to make decisions about this, that, and the other. We have to spend some level of time really just being grateful.
Yes, ma'am.
Being grateful for the good stuff, being grateful that we're here, being grateful that we have people that we can talk with if we need to.
Yes.
Everybody doesn't have good friends. Everybody doesn't have friends that got common sense. Everybody, you know, come
That's
on,
the
y'all.
truth.
Everybody, you know, you just like, why? All of us have been in the place where we've had a conversation with somebody and we're sitting there like in our heads going, why am I talking to them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So, you know, to have good girlfriends, particularly, to have people in your life that love you, that are rooting for you, as all of you powerful women are doing, is such a blessing. And so listening to meditative, whether it's tapes, things of that nature, that's the only way you can tap into your power, is to take the time to allow the quietness, the solitude, being by yourself, being with yourself so that you can recharge and re-energize. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Oh, that's good, Reverend. That's good. And I'm with you, because I believe in the whole friends are the family we choose mantra.
Yes.
You know, I believe that and wholeheartedly, because you talked about some of our friends don't have good sense. You know, sometimes our family don't have good sense either.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
You know, and so when we have you know, friends are the family we choose. I just got some new friends today, so I'm grateful. Tristan, we were talking about the overuse of social media on our psyche.
Absolutely. We have to understand that our diet isn't just what we eat. It's what we
that's
allow
good.
to our body in any crevices. whether it's something we see, whether it's something we hear, the people around us in our circle. So being mindful of how these stimulus affect us. So even with my daughter, she's a teenager, I make her go and do a social media purge every, month. So you're purging who you're actually seeing and what's popping up on your timeline, because those are things that are in our control. Our friends are people that's in our control. So if you have a friend, like for me, my friends know, like, if it's not an emergency, don't call me after 9. Like, if you're, what I'm saying? Like, if you have an issue or whatever, please ask me if I'm in a space to actually receive whatever bad news or listen to you vent, because I might be having something going on first before you come and call me with negativity. So being mindful of these parameters in your life, because you actually control what's going on, and they actually mold how you see things. Again, your music and what you take in. Like, you can't send me random videos. I have things blocked on my thing because some people, again, don't have that discretion or discernment to be able to make those decisions, and they just send out anything. So just being mindful of what you consume, because it molds and it affects your energy.
Yes, I feel you. I have a girlfriend, and we're pretty close. And one of the things that you have to be in tune, not only to yourself, but in tune to your girlfriend. She was having a really, really good day a couple of days ago, and I wasn't having the best of days. But when I got the cue of, I'm in a good place, that was my cue to say, okay, well, we're going to have this other conversation on another day, because it's really about her peace of mind too, right? And so you got to know your circle.
That personal. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
We take it personal sometimes. Like, even with my child, like, I know she's sick and tired of being around me when it's 5 o'clock and she tell me good night. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I pick up on those cues, because that means she's done with me and she wants her alone time, and that's totally okay.
That's right. So, ladies, someone, another anonymous attendee asked if it was possible for us to regionally network the women attending today to exchange our business information and enhance our information, especially regarding all services and especially the services for children. So I am sure I'm reading that out to the host, and I know the host can make a way in order to do that, because I think Tiffany will come back on the back end after you guys wrap up and tell everyone a little bit about how we will continue to stay engaged with all the folks who participated today. So this is what I'd like to do. All right, folks, make sure you have your pens and your paper, because they're getting ready to give y'all a whole bunch of information, their websites, they name it, you guess it. I mean, if you wanted it, they're about to give it to you. So let me see, Dr. Angela, let me just go with you, then Dr. Jeanine, Tracy, Melissa, and Tristan, you're gonna bring up the rear. I think the good Reverend had to go on to another call. So Angela, Dr. Angela, Dr. Jeanine, Tracy, Melissa, and Tristan. So take it away, Dr. Angela, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. We have to spend more time loving each other. As the Reverend, Tristan, and most of the panelists, all of you have described, there's this need to stay connected. And the problem is, not only do we need to deal with what Corona might be doing, but we have family members who need us that we haven't been able to check on as readily, or maybe childhood, middle school, high school, college friends that maybe are suffering or dealing with other situations in their lives, domestic violence in households. And so it's important to start checking in on some other people as we're dealing with our own financial and children and all these different areas. We need to make sure, if we can't help them with their needs, maybe we can at least hear them, redirect them to people that can assist them.
Thank you, Dr. Angela. And I'm told by Girls Inc. that they're going to make sure that they give all the attendees information on all of the panelists. So if you don't want to sound like a commercial, you don't have to, because they're going to make sure that they give all the information. So Dr. Jeanine.
Thank you for the time.
Our pleasure. It was a pleasure to see you.
This has been so much fun. I've been stuck in the house with all boys, my husband, my 2 sons, and even my cat is a boy. And so it has just been wonderful to be here today. It's been great. So my takeaways: do the census, my 2020 census.gov, so that we can recover, so that we will need census numbers to make sure that and this recovery isn't going to be 2020. We're talking recovery all the way into next year and maybe in after that. So we have to make sure that we participate in the census. I put it in the chat box, but Fair Count has a program called Sisters for the Census that is specifically focused on Black women and families. So we can harness the power that we have in the electorate. Everybody talks about how Black women are going to change the electorate. Let's use it now to get the resources for our communities. And so I just want everybody to go to sistersforthecensus.org and sign up. And yeah, that's my big takeaway from today, because we can make sure that our families and especially our children are counted.
Can I ask one quick question? I know it's a wrap up. The deadline?
The deadline for the census has been extended because of the pandemic until October 31st. But don't wait to do it until October 31st. People are going to start knocking on your doors if you haven't completed it around mid-August. But I just want you to think, how comfortable do you feel opening up the door for a census worker in a mask? If you don't want people coming to your doors in masks, do it now. Do it today. It takes 10 minutes. Just do it.
That's good. That's good info, because you're right. Please don't come to my door with the mask on, please. Yes, that's right. Get it done. I think I said Tracy was up next.
Yes, self-care is crucial right now. Even if you don't have to interact with anyone personally or even on a computer, still get up, take a shower, get dressed. You will be amazed at how it will make you feel, and your day will go better. And set some goals. Just set some small goals to achieve that day. This has been hard on everyone to adapt, but we all do have to adapt. Tristan hit on something really important when she said what you feed yourself is bigger than food. You know, what you listen to, what you read. I'm listening to audiobooks every day. Not just for pleasure, but I'm learning different things because I'm having to learn how to adapt right now. And there's some great books out there. And one last point, you make the point, Shaunya, of the friends or the family that you choose. Choose some good people right now. I have a standing 6:30 p.m. cocktail hour with my girlfriends every Friday, and it's our time. We look forward to it. We sit outside. We always have a cocktail and we have a toast, but we use that time to uplift each other, to to share and to ask questions and to get through that time. And I call it, your COVID survival crew. We need it right now. So
I'm with that. You mind if I steal that? Can I steal that?
Steal it.
COVID survival crew.
Your COVID survival crew. And if you don't have one, pick them today. And it could be 2 people. But we do that once a week, and we're some busy ladies, but that's our time. And every Friday we look forward to it.
Well, I look forward to shopping with you soon, Tracy. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure having you. Melissa George, help us out. Final thoughts.
So my takeaway is, now that we know better, let's do better. And just as we would go and see a physician for our physical health, our pastor for our spiritual health, our psychologist for our mental health, there's nothing wrong with seeing someone for our financial health as well. There's all kinds of things and services that are available. And even if it's just a consult to see if it's something that would work for each person, they need to tap in, because someone looking objectively at your finances is going to be very different than you looking at them. It takes the emotion out of it. Yes. And so I would really want to encourage people to take advantage, if not calling me, calling someone in the financial services arena and getting some support.
That's excellent, excellent, excellent advice. And we got to get away from being embarrassed, because, it's only, as soon as you see someone, the sooner it gets better.
Absolutely.
Tristan, I think you wanted to, let me have you kind of offer your final thoughts.
So first, to all my parents, stop overcompensating for situations you didn't create.
Say that again. Tristan, say it loud.
That's good.
Stop overcompensating for situations you did not create. You didn't create COVID. You didn't create these circumstances. You didn't close the schools. So a lot of my parents feel like they have to overcompensate by constantly entertaining their child, which breeds resentment and burnout. So understanding that first and foremost. Then also understanding, are you reacting or responding when it comes to this pandemic? And those are 2 different things. So reacting is more about, you'll see your wine and alcohol intake increase, food intake increase, you're oversleeping. So understanding that those are responses, and you want to respond as opposed to react. So responses, like we said, decluttering, Self-care, 30 minutes of exercise and going out walking, you know, before the neighborhood wakes up, understanding that. And lastly, make sure you implement skills that are going to maintain your peace in your home. Reassess your situation individually and as a family. So I can have communication skills, but if my child doesn't, then my family does not have communication skills.
Yeah.
Lastly, understanding that disappointment is inevitable, but misery is optional. And you have to be mindful.
Oh, wait, Tristan, say that again.
That was good.
That's good. I'm stealing that too. Say it again.
Disappointment is inevitable. Like, you're going to be disappointed by things, but misery is optional.
Yes.
So when you have that disappointment, make sure you're responding in a healthy way to avoid maintaining misery.
Y'all have just worn me out. Now listen, I thought the good Reverend had gone, but you know, you can't have some sisters together. And before Tiffany comes and closes us out, if you're gonna have a Reverend on in the conversation as your girlfriend, Reverend, you know you got to close us out before Tiffany comes and give us a word. I know, she on the car, y'all. She
I'm in the car, but let me say three things. This is the opportunity. It is a strange time, but it's an opportune time. And there's a phrase that is called kairos, and it means opportune, not just chronological. But there are three things that I think this gives us an opportunity to do. One, to tap into the presence. Tap into the presence of God. Whoever you pray to, tap into that. Spend a specific time. Not necessarily an hour but spend some quantifiable time with God in this season, and learn that when we pray, that prayer is a two-way conversation. So let's not do all the talking. Spend some time learning to be a good listener so that God can begin to speak to your heart. The other thing is tap into your purpose. Tap into your purpose. Purpose is critical, and we don't do well without purpose. None of us are here by accident. And so tap into the purpose, and that comes with tapping into that presence, because it's that quiet time. And finally, the last thing is, well, even before that, the thing that is really key about purpose is that if we don't learn why we're here, then we're wasting time. There are some people, for the nurses or the doctors, there are people who weren't even sick yet, who God was orchestrating time for you to fall into that purpose so you could be the one that they would interact with. Tap into your purpose. There are people who didn't even know that they would have money to deal with before Melissa said yes to being a financial expert, or Tristan said yes to being someone that works in that mental health field. And so as you begin to look into, to tap into the presence, tap into that purpose. The last thing is to tap into that power.
Yes.
You need to know that we're powerful. And I think we forget that there are so many things that we are not sure about. We forget that we've come this way before. We forget that there have been things and situations that all of us have had the opportunity to conquer. And so I encourage you to know your power. Tap into your power, because that is the thing that is going to get you through. We have been through worse before.
Amen.
We have been through worse before, and may go through more again. But what we do know is that God will help us get through this. And that, so if we learn to do those three things, our purpose, our power, and, you know, even our passion, if we learn to use this opportunity to tune in, to tap in to all of that stuff, that good stuff that's inside of us, we'll be the better for this on the other side of COVID.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Does anybody else want to say amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Oh, amen. Reverend Kima, thank you so much. Please don't wreck on our behalf. You have blessed us tremendously. We just want to thank you all. Ladies, I can't express how much. I wasn't really sure what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, but you all each blessed me tremendously. I am grateful to Girls Inc. for the opportunity for us to get together. And I'm happy that I have some new sister girlfriends, no matter where they are, that I can now call my girlfriends. Tiffany, I know that you have some closing remarks. It has been my pleasure. Sisters, please stay safe. I think that she wants all of us to, I think, at least mute, if not turn our cameras off for just a moment. But then on the back end, we will come back after this is over so that we can talk and exchange a little information on the back side. So please, we're going to turn off our cameras. Tiffany, thank you for having us here today. Unmute yourself, Tiff. There you go.
There we go. Shaunya, thank you. This is just, let me tell you, ladies, I am filled, right? Every adjective that you could imagine, that's how I feel right now, positive adjective. I just want to thank Shaunya, all of our panelists. This has just been a blessing, not just to Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, but it's been a blessing personally to me to come together with good girlfriends, to learn, to gain knowledge and understanding, and to gain wisdom, right, that I can take back and use for my family, use in my career, and use in my community. That's what this was about, right? And so I hope that you uplifted. Again, I have an appointment with a personal thank you to all of our panelists, to Shaunya for joining us today. And so we want to let you know that tomorrow you're going to get an email from us. It's going to say thank you, thank you, thank you, but it's also going to share with you information about how you can personally reach out to each one of our panelists, that you can ask them questions, find out more about them, and that you can just become engaged with them. And so you see our panelists below. They were amazing ladies. My heart is filled. My heart is absolutely filled. And I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I'm just all of that and above. So ladies, I want to bring you back around to the pause that I talked about earlier. You remember the pause when I said that Girls Inc. for providing services for 44 years and serving over 114,000 girls, we had to take a pause. Well, we didn't just take a pause in terms of our programming, but we also saw a pause in some of our funding. We saw some of our funding decrease because of the economic impact from the pandemic. And so a lot of organizations also saw that. But ladies, we are gearing up. We're preparing ourselves to hit the play button again on our programs, but we need your help. So we are asking you to join us in our Text to Give campaign. Together, she can win. And so we're asking you to text Girls Win to 22525. That will help us to begin to resume some of our programming. And so here's the truth about it. Programming is going to look differently. It's going to look differently with how we do it. It's going to look differently. But we want to bring some sense of normalcy back to our girls. We want our girls to feel like they can still do anything that they want to do, and that Girls Inc. and women like you are behind them. So we're asking you to support Girls Inc. today through a donation. And again, it's easy. You can text Girls Win to 22525. You will receive a donation link, and you can make a donation to Girls Inc. that will again help us to hit play on our programming and get our girls re-engaged with our on-site programs and our outreach. We hope to begin our summer program beginning in July on-site and get some of our other community outreach programs going, but we do need your help. Again, you can text She Wins to 22525. Okay, ladies, I have one more thing for you. We want to know how you felt about today. So we have a poll that's on your screen, and we want you to tell us, did you enjoy yourselves? Would you like to see this happen again? So you can complete that poll, because I had a great time, but I would also love to have a girlfriend's brunch virtually where our girls are in the conversation. We want to know what they're feeling, how they're being impacted, and they have great subjects that they want to talk about. So we want to teach our girls how to be good girlfriends. So often what the media shows of girlfriends is not positive. But we had an amazing experience amongst girlfriends who had never met each other before, that were across this nation, and we had great conversation. So we want to teach our girls how not just to function in this virtual world, but we want to show them how to thrive and to succeed. And so we have to set that example. And that means they have to be at the table with us, and they have to be at our girlfriend's brunch. So you tell us what you thought. Okay, ladies, did you take the poll? Did you take the poll? We also want you to know that if you want to learn more about Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, that you can follow us on all of our social media pages, our Twitter, our Facebook, and our Instagram. And our tag is Girls Inc. ATL on all of them. You can also learn more about us on our website at www.girlsincatl.org. Ladies, from the bottom of my heart, I am so thankful for you joining us in this conversation today. It has been absolutely amazing. And so I encourage you, wherever you are, to continue to inspire all girls and women to be strong, smart, and bold. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Sunday afternoon.